6-year-old Lilly Sullivan and her brother, 4-year-old Jack Sullivan, were reported missing at 10 a.m. on May 2nd of this year, 2025, from Pictou, Nova Scotia. And last night, a few of you mentioned the Sullivan siblings, and I said, I don't know about the Sullivan siblings, and that's why we're here now, because I looked into them. And while I don't have any more information than anyone else might have, I did, after learning about the case, I became very curious about what you are thinking about the case. So I thought, let me do a little video on it and maybe open a discussion so we can start talking about it. As I said, they were reported missing the morning of May 2nd, which was a Friday. And what happened, according to their stepfather and their mother, is that they were, the couple was in bed. They had just fed their baby daughter, who's 16 months old, and I believe had fallen back asleep or something, or they were just still in bed. And I'm going to project how I would experience this, but the way they said it was a little bit different. Was they kind of like, it was too quiet in the house. So they got up and looked around, and they said that, okay, first of all, let's start here. When I first started watching this, learning about it, I thought, I don't want to cast aspersions because these people are missing their children, and that's bad enough. To have people kind of side-eyeing them is inexcusable. However, I can't help myself, so I'm going to have to do that a little bit. After seeing all of the interviews and hearing their account of things, it's very hard. I would be very surprised if it happens. I'm not saying it does not happen, but not as often as other things happen. And a lot of these cases are often never solved. I immediately thought of Deor Kuntz, and they don't know what happened to him. His parents were mad sus, anyway, so they claimed that they did not hear we'll start there. They did not hear the sliding door. This is the sliding door. Does that look to you like a stealth, well-oiled machine? To me, it does not. I'm not judging them for not having a new sliding door. I'm just saying, and it's also possible you don't know what the acoustics are like in a home. I know from living in apartments that you hear all the kinds of things you wouldn't think you hear from other apartments, and then other things you don't hear which you'd think you would. So, and the higher up you are, the more you hear from the street sound, and depending on, it's a whole, you never know how acoustics work. So I guess it's possible that they didn't hear the sliding door, but the way they said it made it sound like they normally would. And they also said that the children put their boots on, their little rubber, their rain boots on before they left, which I thought was strange because they're young, they're little kids. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe children do put their shoes on before I don't know. I mean, they must, right? They were reported missing on a Friday, and the last account of anyone seeing them, now they said that they hadn't been to school since Wednesday. One day was some sort of event at school or something was happening that they didn't go. And the other day was because Lily had a sore throat. I don't know why Jack didn't go to school. But the bus driver said that he hasn't seen those children since Monday. I'm just going to kind of roll with what I'm remembering as I'm remembering it because I believe some of the neighbors said, well, one of the neighbors, and this is not funny at all, it's just funny to me that, neighbors We all think we're just living our own lives and minding our own business, but there's always at least one neighbor who's minding everyone else's business. One of the neighbors said that they didn't even think anyone lived there. They thought it was a drug house, or, I don't remember what the term was, but something like that. And I will admit, and I've said this before when we were talking about certain traits of Jennifer Soto and Stephen Stearns. The only reason that brings us to judge these people is because things have happened in their home that we have to hear about them or see what's going on there. I mean it when I say that someone who lives in a trailer home, that to me makes perfect sense. I've fantasized about living in a trailer home because it's completely foreign to me, and there's something kind of appealing about it, and there are some very nice trailer homes, and you can keep any home nicely, and people do. A lot of people, most people in trailer homes live very nicely, I think. I don't know, but as much as anyone else in any other kind of home. However, when you look at this property from the bird's eye view that they first give you, it just looks a little like, I could see why that neighbor might think that. I will say this, all of the pictures of these children, and there's a video that's been shown of one of their birthdays, which we'll get to in a little bit. These children look clean, they're fed. The home inside, I don't know if this was their home, but wherever that little birthday celebration was well kept. There's nothing there that to me, these children to me don't look like they're not being taken care of. So there's that. And it's also not a crime not to keep your property in pristine condition. Not everyone has the kind of money to get a new sliding door and to have a manicured backyard or whatever. I get it. Of course, we're going to be looking through a cynical lens if we're looking at a home where 2 children disappeared, just vanished, as they say. And sometimes they'll say she just vanished off the face of the earth, she just into thin air, and I always think, not really. Some people, but this is really, and partly because we don't know if, let's assume that their story is not exactly what happened, and we have to, because there are a lot of missing pieces here. Nobody has seen these children that we know of since Monday, and they were reported missing on Friday. So that kind of makes it feel like they really did disappear into thin air. If we're going by the parents, they just walked out silently out of the sliding doors, and they were reported. The 911 was called shortly thereafter, and no one has seen them. Or again, it does happen, and there have been there are strange abduction stories. There's that, and I don't know the name, and I don't want to get too into it because it's very disturbing, but there was a little girl who was actually saved by a waitress in a restaurant. And the story had been, I think this guy went into the house and did away with the whole family and just took the little girl and the little boy. And it's not like it does not happen. But this story, in that story, the parents were dead, so they were kind of ruled out. Not kind of, they were ruled out. So there's a lot here that's definitely going to make us question what really happened here. I will say, as far as and they also said that the children, both of them, might have or have undiagnosed autism, which I don't hear that phrase used a lot. I don't know. I'm sure there are a lot of children who have undiagnosed autism. I know that if my child, I suspected, had autism, I might want to maybe find out. But these children are young, and I don't know. Like I said, they looked to me like they were being taken care of. They were going to school. Someone had said that on that Wednesday night or Thursday night, I think it was Wednesday night or Thursday night, there was a party in that home, and there were cars filling up the entire lot or parking area or whatever it is. And so the speculation was made that perhaps the children got their hands on some substances and there was an accident. My first thought when I saw I'm just going to speak freely here, and I'm sorry if I offend anyone, but my first thought when I saw the property, which I saw before I saw the parents being interviewed, was, what the hell's going on here? I just immediately thought of, I thought of Christopher McNabb and that little baby. Christopher McNabb, I'll show a picture of him because they really fixed him up in court. He looked just like a lawyer with his suit and his glasses. Anyway, they came to mind. It was a similar kind of vibe there, I thought. However, when I saw them interviewed separately, they were always separate. They don't show them, I didn't see them together. They were. They don't seem like they're on anything. They don't seem like they have been on anything really. They don't look like people who are living that lifestyle. They're well-spoken. They're making sense. So that, I was not surprised. But I wouldn't certainly not have been surprised if they looked like they were under the influence or had been recently. But no, they did not. Now, the video I saw of the birthday, first of all, I'd like to say that little Lilly, as you can see, and if you're watching the Karen Reed trial, you'll understand why I say this, has more credentials than the Commonwealth's expert today. The video they showed when they were discussing the autism, and the parents were saying that the mother was saying that, I guess the father was too, the stepfather, that they talk a lot to everyone, they're very friendly, and they never met a stranger, that whole thing, And there were few accounts that were different from I got mixed things from the school, the bus driver and the teachers. So I don't have any reason to really doubt that. And children also act differently at home than they do in school. Some children are very shy when they're around other people, and then they talk their parents' heads off at home. And when they're together, But the video that I saw that I'm about to show a part of was to illustrate the discussion of the potential autism because of this.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Lily, stop, honey.
And I guess what the comment was that, this could get on your nerves after a while and maybe they just snap, but both of them? And, listen, it gets on my nerves. I joke about not liking the sound of children's laughter, but what I haven't said, but I've said many times to not you, is there's always a screamer. I don't really hate the sound of children's laughter, obviously, but there is always a screamer, and I always say that, and that little Lily, she's the screamer. But, little kids are, they're loud and they can be, that video to me doesn't show anything. They kind of just take it in stride. I guess if your kid is the screamer, you get used to it. I don't know. But I think to look at a random video and say, well, maybe this is why they snapped, and is pushing it a little bit, like I said, there's always a screamer, and that kid is still alive. And some of us were probably the screamer, not me, obviously, and not any of you. But, there are adults who they were the screamer too, and they're fine and dandy. And I also thought that video actually showed a very nice family There's nothing there that seems very loving. It's nice looking, well kept. The children look like they're well taken care of. Stepfather is just watching her scream her head off patiently. I mean, if that was me, my father, no one would be alive anymore. So now to the parents, and the stepfather. Let's also talk about this, because I'm very influenced by the t-shirts, or interested in the t-shirts that people wear. And if I might have to do some kind of study, independent study on t-shirt choices versus guilt. Father is in a tap out t-shirt, which at first I was like, okay, it's not, whatever. The mother is in a Hello Kitty t-shirt, and that combo to me is really pushing it a little bit. But that's just me being a snob, I guess. I don't know. These people were just hanging out at home and their children went missing. So I don't know what I expect from them. It's not as bad as Ogun Emotion, but the Hello Kitty is, not that I don't, Hello Kitty's fine, but anyway. The father, to me, the stepfather, reminds me of, the first person I thought of actually was Keith Papini. And I remember watching Keith Papini when the whole Sherry Papini thing started. That's the woman who staged her own abduction. And everyone was suspicious from the get-go with that, really. Although they did, of course, she's a blonde white woman, so they immediately did an extensive search, while other people who had actually gone missing and needed, law enforcement didn't get it. But, which is, of course, the worst part of what she did. But they interviewed Keith, and I remember watching him and thinking, I feel like this guy, it would be likely that he's in on this, whatever this is. However, he just didn't strike me as, he was crying, he looked really, and I gotta say, this stepfather, Daniel Martel, to me seems, I don't have a very suspicious feeling about him. Of course, nothing would surprise me at this point, or at any point, but my feeling about him is, if he is, and at first I was like, well, maybe he's kind of doing that thing where people inject themselves into a crime that they've committed because they kind of want to keep an eye on it, or they're overdoing it. I didn't get that feeling either. Obviously, I could be wrong. What do I know? Nothing. The mother, on the other hand, I don't like her. I don't like her. I just don't like her. She's very cold to me. She's very angry, seemingly at everyone, her children, her husband or partner, as she says, the law enforcement. She doesn't really have anything nice to say about anyone. And when she talks about her children in a positive way, that doesn't sound nice either. Everybody loves them, she said. Everybody loves them. So that's strange to me, because we're not here to talk about how much everybody loves them, lady. She also says that she wanted an Amber Alert because she found out from people were texting her that they didn't know. Now, why didn't you tell them? That's what I don't like. I get what she's saying there, but why are people texting you? Shouldn't you be on Facebook or whatever people do and get the word out and text your bestie and say, tell everyone? And so I thought that was a little strange, just kind of trying to place blame immediately. And she just, there's a certain kind of desperation that a mother and father has when they are missing, when their child is missing, that you cannot mistake for anything else. And it's true, everyone acts differently, but this ain't it, sis. Sorry, that's how I feel about it. And I'm angry at myself for saying that, because I try to be more fair, and I don't like it when people do exactly what I'm doing right now at all. but I'm doing it because otherwise I can't talk about this whole situation. It just seems, I guess I could be maybe a little more diplomatic about it. So that's what I have. Those are my raw, unedited feelings about this case and these two cute children who are missing. It's actually a mixed bag of impressions and feelings, because while their story is odd, and I'm judging their home from afar because I'm not a nice person, I guess. Although, as I said, the children look like they're taken care of and they're going to school, and something is not really. And I could talk about this briefly, I guess, without mentioning the possibility that the parents are involved, but it's such an odd situation. And the mother, Malaya Brooks Murray, left the home. She hasn't made any statements since. She went to stay with a family member, allegedly because... So also, sorry, this is a little... Daniel Martell, is that his name? Yeah. Daniel Martell's mother, I think brother, I'm not sure, but I know his mother lives on the property. I'll show you where. Which is fine. And apparently, and I heard this from a few different, this was mentioned several times. And again, I believe it's hearsay in the fact that I believe it came from Malaya. I don't know. But that his mother was accusing her of doing something. So the whole thing is very suspicious to me. I mean, I know that it's very difficult for couples when this kind of thing happens, and, you know, it causes a lot of strife. But I don't know, for her just to be gone. And he has been actively, and I'm not saying he's a saint, okay? He's not a white knight. I'm not putting him up on a pedestal. I'm just saying that he is around. To me, seems like he's actually emotional, which means nothing. He could be a monster. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know these people either. But he is doing all of the right things, it seems. Who knows why that is? Who knows why he's upset? He could be upset because, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows except him. But all of these things together make it for a very suspicious situation. And as I said, we don't know when those kids went missing. I mean, all the combinations, the fact that the bus driver, who I also thought this was very cute because, you know, you have the account of the teachers and the bus driver, their description of the children, and I believe it was the bus driver who had the funniest kind of comments on them. He said that or maybe it was the teacher who said this about Lily, but she's a drama queen, which I thought was hilarious. And you can kind of see in the pictures she's very animated, and, you know, when she's not just screaming, which is also very dramatic. And that Jack was known to throw take his shoe off and throw it at the bus driver, which is also kind of cute. I mean, I'm sure it wears thin after a minute or two, but the way the bus driver, I didn't see an interview with him, but just the account of the things that he said made it sound like he's got the kind of sense of humor a bus driver who drives little children to school and back would have to have. And the fact that he's not the suspect here says that he must. So that's it, and I want to know what you think, what you're thinking about this. If you know information, I'm sure you do, because I don't have that much. I just have the basics here. But I may have also missed certain, or misconstrued certain things that, you know, I literally just found out about this because you mentioned it, asked me about it, And a few of you had mentioned it yet last night, and I didn't know it at all. So that's why I'm here, and that's what I want to know from you is what don't I know? What do you know? What do you think? Do you think what I think? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think kind of a combination? Is it possible that these children, I mean, of course, anything is possible now. We do not know. These children, it's just that they both, for two of them, both of them to just disappear is very strange. Very strange. Right? Thank you for watching. I'll see you very soon. Bye.